This will be the last Techie Talk of 2022 with State Representative Tacky Chan of Quincy. Hey, Tacky.
Hey, good morning, Joe. Happy end of 2022.
Indeed, hard to believe, but here we are, last week of the year, and a little bit of a downtime for the legislature right now, right?
It is. December historically is a fairly quiet month, especially after getting to November elections and, of course, the Thanksgiving holiday. Most legislators do take the first half of the December for themselves, of course, unless there's the Christmas party or Christmas parade, thankfully. Quincy, we get that over with during Thanksgiving weekend. But towards the end of session, it does get a little bit more pickup. The last day of session is on January 3rd, when midnight strikes January 4th. The 192nd General Court of the Commonwealth comes to a close, and it's a term that we never use, but it's prorogation. It's a British term regarding the final end of a session, not a recess, not a say you're ending, like it has been terminated. So it will close. So we're still moving bills in informal session by unanimous consent. And my committee has been processing bills in December because they get those local petitions asking for exemptions from certain alcohol laws from cities and towns. So we've been getting those processed to give reps and senators a chance to try to make the final push going into the final few days. But I'm monitoring a couple of bills. We had a bill regarding alcohol beer storage that came out to the governor's desk this week. It's not exciting, folks. It's all it is changing the law to allow a beer distributor to have more than one warehouse in the same community, but no more than 3 warehouses total in the state.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is like a prohibition kind of thing. I deal with these very archaic laws that needs to be an update. So, you can have, basically, if you're building one warehouse and you want to stay in the same community, you can keep that warehouse up while you're building a second warehouse, and you can destroy the first warehouse once the second one's been built in the same community. Otherwise, you have 2 warehouses, which means you can't have those 2 in the same place, same time existing. Well, we transfer. Yeah, I know it's silly. When I put it that way, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But these are things I'm dealing with now. And we have like a direct shipping of wine technical bill, closing a loophole that non-wine manufacturers have been taking advantage of. So ABCC investigators discovered that there's been fraud, straight up fraud, a misrepresentation of being a winery, and we're trying to make sure that loophole is closed, for lack of a better term. So it's another very technical bill with not a lot of words, but you have to know what we're doing here. So we got that going on. We have some bills come back admitted by the governor. Had my certified nursing assistant multilingual exams sent back by the governor. We're probably not going to act on it before the year ends, where things are looking. I talked about this a bit earlier about the fact the governor also sent back a bill, veto amended, to allow individuals to keep their professional licenses even if they miss the student loan payments. Which, you got no license, you can't make money, you can't pay your loans.
Like a catch-22, right, exactly. Yeah.
So again, as much as people love Governor Baker, these are the kind of things that don't make the press, that frustrates the rest of us in the legislature. Nobody's perfect. He does some great things, and he does some stuff like this that makes us look at him like, really?
Well, he's on to a much more demanding job at the NCAA next year.
Well, absolutely. I wish him the best. None of us really saw it coming, but then again, I wasn't paying that much attention. The man deserves some time off, to be perfectly honest with everyone. COVID is very tough on the executive branch. The executive branch is a hard enough job, but it is. You've heard me say this more than once. I think the executive branch is not easy to do. Even though we are allowed to be critical of our elected officials, including myself. But I do recognize the job entails, and I've been around a very long time watching governors come and go. And, overall, he did well. But COVID in particular, clearly aged him another decade while making decisions on life and death, which a lot of people on this video probably weren't happy with. Some maybe few or all his decisions, but someone had to make those decisions. And, making a decision puts a lot of pressure on folks. particularly when you look at death counts in a period of time, we don't know what's going on, and getting mixed signals from the federal government about what should be doing, and inconsistency of the CDC compared to your DPHs, and just all the insanity involved for the last 3 years. So I do wish the governor the best. I hope he enjoys his time at the NCAA. I came from an NCAA, I think Division III school, which is Brandeis, I believe. I think we had Division II in some areas. But best wishes to him, and to his folks as well that works in administration. I understand Mary Lou Sutters, who's guided us for 8 years of Health and Human Services, has submitted her retirement papers. So she's going to take a pension.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of turnover, I'm sure. So let's talk about the transition process in Beacon Hill. What's going to be happening next week?
Well, we're going to get sworn in first. Legislature sworn in there first. The last official act, actually. There's two official acts, really. But the governor, Baker, is one he's going to swear us in the legislative session. Then Thursday, the 5th, Governor-elect Healy gets sworn in, and the Governor Baker will take his long walk out of the State House, which is the tradition of governors, where he'll leave his office, leave behind a key, a Bible, and a note on the desk for the incoming governor, and take the long walk out of the State House to his private vehicle with a 19-gun salute. There is some construction going on at the front of the State House. We'll see if they're ready by next Thursday. If not, they'll send them an alternative route outside of the State House, like they did for Governor Cellucci when they pretty much had been rebuilding the entire front staircase, the grand staircase up front. So, and Governor-elect Healy will be sworn in, as well as Lieutenant Governor Driscoll. And then the 18th, I think, I'm trying to remember my calendar because it happens only once every 4 years. And really 8, because to be honest with you, we don't pay much attention to the second swearing in nearly as much sometimes if they're coming back for a second term. A lot of times these electeds are not looking for a big pomp ceremony. They're looking to just get a quiet ceremony, the family, and sworn in and get to work. So, but your first time swearing in, I mean, the pomp and circumstances, something that their friends and family should most definitely observe and enjoy. So I believe the 18th will be the Secretary of State, the Treasurer, the State Auditor, and the Attorney General is, I believe, going to be the 18th. So it's and then bill filing is due, I think, the 3rd Friday of January. We're going to elect the Speaker and Senate President, obviously, on swearing-in day on the 3rd. We're going to have to initiate some temporary rules or emergency rules. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen. Will be emergency rules or temporary rules or some combination that will go into effect for a while we're waiting for new joint rules between the branches and new House and Senate rules to be drafted and approved by the respective branches. And then, the Speaker is meeting folks regarding committee assignments. We may see committee assignments when the Speaker feels like it. I suspect sometime towards the end of January, early February. And then bills will be completely processed by the clerk sometime by late February, early March. So, the bill has about the clerk has about 4,000 plus bills to process and send to committees. So, committee process will start, public hearings or whatnot. That isn't an oversight hearing or a, procedural hearing. Sometime probably going into the month of April, and just keep on going until new Joint Rule 10 day next year. I'm sorry, next year is not next year, 2024.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll set a date for a deadline on Joint Rule 10, which Joint Rule 10 deadline for bills reported sometime in 2024 as part of the Joint Rules, and see where it takes us. So, it's going to be busy and not busy. It's kind of weird.
A lot of procedural things. Yeah. Not a lot of, get your face down to the grindstone kind of stuff.
Yeah, it is and it isn't, like, right. I mean, I'm not a committee chair as of midnight, January 4th. So there's no committee work, but, bill filing is due the 3rd week of January, which means that we have to get our bill filing prepped and going. Um, and then, still watching for governor's pocket vetoes as part of bill refiling process because, you're not sure what's going to happen just yet. Plus, try to get communication with the newly elected constitutional officers, plus, a number of newly elected senators and representatives and introductions. And then, obviously we have the House Asian Caucus that we need to get ourselves organized somewhat.
Right.
So it's very informal. We're very friendly with each other. So we still have to at least get some agenda items down as we go into the new cycle. And then, I like have some meetings set up, right? For example, the Consul General of Japan wants to talk to the caucus. So we have a meeting set up later this month. I mean, most recently we talked to the House Caucus, talked to the White House's state legislative liaison. They have an office dedicated to state legislatures as well as the Asian advisor to the president. So we had a quick update with them, which was helpful. I chatted with the Korean consulate already in December. The Taiwanese are likely to come back again soon for another conversation regarding their circumstances. As you may or may not be aware, this is still an international city and we're an international trade city. In many countries, people think you only send us students. They're really not just students. I mean, a lot of foreign investment going both directions, and the importance of moving all kinds of goods, whether it be biotech or seafood, still needs to keep lines of communication open with the legislature and the governor, as well as local and big businesses as well. So, I expect fully to start the so-called consulate meetings again soon, and they gotta at some point do a larger move through all of them maybe someday at some point. I kept talking about this for a solid year, yet to make it happen. I'm trying to get down to New York and go through consulate role with different consulates that do business with Massachusetts, but there's all kinds of things I would like to do, but I keep pushing it off because there are other priorities at home that got to be taken care of first.
Sure. Yeah. There's only so much time.
Yeah, I was gonna tell I have moving pecking order. So as important as working consulates are, I mean, obviously stuff at home comes first, and it's this constant shifting as I'm trying to figure out how to sandwich in some other stuff that doesn't rise to the immediate front of attention. So there's a saying, ever since I worked for Michael Morrissey back in the day, it's a constant battle of juggling priorities, and that hasn't changed in my life in the work level. Obviously, we do this in our personal lives, but I mean, at the work level, it's always juggling priorities.
Sure. Yeah. How about in the district, Tacky? What's hot right now? What's coming up?
Well, it's been fairly quiet right now. I mean, it's not my election cycle, so that's
Right.
always a plus. The municipal electeds are up. We were just talking about a bit earlier about the Ward 4 special elections. So if you live in Ward 4, again, January 17th is the preliminary. There are 4 candidates to trim down to 2, and the final election's February 7th. So this is a true sprint special election out of Ward 4. And it'll be one ballot with one office. So I don't think there'll be too much confusion. And obviously municipal elections are coming around, and as a political junkie, I do like to see how things are going at the municipal level with people who are thinking about running for office, or people who are making plans to do other things, or maybe not plans to do other things at the local level. I'm not sure. We'll start the budget process again, and I'm sure I'm going to get this flood of emails starting January 5th from constituents asking me to sign on to hundreds and hundreds of bills that constituents ask, and I will be disappointing some because there's no way I'm going to be able to figure out all these bills in a short time frame and claim I know what I'm doing before I put my name on it.
Right.
And sometimes I'll put my name on it. It'll probably be a mistake. Sometimes we've had that happen. It's like wrong number. But I mean, it's human. It's being human. These things will happen.
Yeah, I know that there was some federal money coming into the city for infrastructure improvements downtown. Congressman Lynch, I think, was here not too long ago with some federal funding.
It's funny, earmarks don't exist in DC, but they call it community development projects now. They have a new term for these things.
Yes. Yeah.
Lipstick on a pig situation. It's still pork in a different name. At least in the state level, still call it earmarks. I mean, we're not shy about calling what it is. We receive a lot of money from the federal government. We're very thankful to the federal delegation for a lot of work. I mean, particularly seawalls assistance, after the major storms out in Adams Shore and House Neck, which the feds really came through. And, also got a couple $1,000,000 of state money too, to kind of supplement on that, on city-owned seawalls.
Mhm.
So it's good to see Congressman bringing home something that is claiming not to be bacon.
Call it what you will.
Yeah. But I mean, even locally, I mean, the governor announced, something that I worked on a conference committee on climate change is $355,000 for Quincy Public Schools to get school buses electrified as part of our electrification program. In the last couple of months, the state's put down money for SAFE, which is the fire awareness prevention program. We got some money for road traffic awareness program for Quincy Police. We got some money for the electrical vocational program for Quincy Public Schools. We got some money for a loan forgiveness program for the city's sewer infrastructure program. It's like 14% of that loan is going to be forgiven. So, I think people kind of forget about the sheer volume of money that the state provides beyond local aid to Quincy. I mean, it's millions upon millions of dollars. The state delegation, votes on approving budgets, supplemental budgets, ARPA money, bond bills. And then we, are fighting with legislators to try to get money down to Quincy. I'm sorry, down to the own communities. That's of course coming back to Quincy. Yep. And if you're, Bruce Ayers and Ron Mariano and John Keane, obviously they have to take care of more than just Quincy, as they're, fighting to just bring stuff to Quincy, but also to their respective communities they represent. Thankfully, I'm just Quincy, so it's easy math from my standpoint.
Right.
One party at the time, right? So I think it's often missed by both the media and I think our constituency that city gets millions of dollars that the state delegation voted for, approved, and created programs that the city and taxpayers in Quincy benefit from. Every time state money comes back to Quincy, it's your tax dollars at work coming back to a city program or a city not-for-profit that helps the community. And the more we get, it becomes disproportional. So since we live in the eastern part of the state, we're a denser community. So things like infrastructure for roads and bridge monies lean in our favor. But you come from a sparse community in Western Mass where you don't have that many roads, even though they may be in tough shape because of the small population and smaller total mileage. They don't get nearly as much money as we're fighting for dollars. Same thing with MBTA money. I mean, we put in $300+ million in the last supplemental / opera budget that we were to get done in Econ Dev bill. But you don't see the equal amount of money going to a more sparse community.
Right.
So as I tell folks, I do actually leave the house, contrary to popular belief, and I do actually leave Quincy sometimes, which shocks my friends, by the way, at the legislature, when I actually leave Quincy to go to like another community. They was like, you left. I'm like, yeah, it happens. But I get to learn about what's going on in other communities, and it's pretty obvious. You know what you're looking for as you're traveling around. You realize things are good in Quincy.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And it's, thanks to the municipal government, but also, again, people forget the state delegation is a major player on a lot of funding and a lot of programs that we are very fortunate to keep moving, throughout COVID. And if this was a major recession, we would be making these very hard decisions about trimming down to what we consider essential programs in the safety net as people are trying to get healthcare, unemployment, and so forth. And because of the strong labor market and this weird superinflation and very strange time period we're living in economically, the legislature has been able to make a lot of one-time investments, and we're able to shore up in preparation for the next recession.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Coming up in the new year, the minimum wage is going up.
Yes, the minimum wage is going up to $15. This is something we voted on. God, I think it's like 5 years ago now.
Sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like forever. Doing incremental increases to $15 an hour. The unfortunate part of this is that we're taking away time and a half on holidays and Sundays. But at the same time, though, overall wages have gone up to like $1,700 a week. I think 17. I have to look it up. I think it's like 1760 something.
Mhm.
I'm going to cheat here a little
Yeah.
bit and do the fast lookup. Yes, the average increase, the average wage is now 1765 and 34 cents. So $17,065.34 is the average state wage. So why is that important? Well, it's gone up, which means paid family leave and unemployment benefits, maximum benefit also goes with the increase.
Yeah.
So people don't realize that a lot of our social programs, particularly unemployment benefits, as well as paid family leave, are tied to the average state wage. It's not how much you make, it's how much we're making as a collective Massachusetts. Those programs are capped at. And that again reflects, the hyperinflationary period and wage inflation we are now facing now that drives up these costs. And $15 minimum wage, is something we all support because it polls extremely well in the public. But the reality, let's be honest, the reality is that many businesses are paying well above $15 an hour because of the labor shortage in the time we're living in.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And also the millionaires tax will take effect, right?
Yeah, it'll take effect. We won't see a lot of the results for some time. It takes even tax policies take a little bit around to see the impact on. And again, it's every dollar over the first $1 million that is your income, be taxed to 4%. Now, I'm fairly confident every tax attorney and accountant right now is trying to figure out how to maneuver this new law to the benefit of their customers, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
as long as it's legal, right?
As long as it's legal. But the challenge again is the fact a lot of these figures that we got were pre-COVID numbers regarding the revenue generation. And people are making more money right now on inflation. People at the other end of the economic scale, the multi-million dollars are not getting raises per se at the same pace that Main Street people are working on. But at the same time, they were benefiting from capital gains like mad in 2021. They're not benefiting from capital gains in 2022. Those of you who have been watching the market, it's been pretty terrible. 2022 roller coaster ride of stock market disaster. Meanwhile, the Feds have increased interest rates, and if you're all looking for safe harbors, definitely look at your CDs and don't just use local banks. We're going to try to get a brokerage account or really look at talking to your financial advisors about broadening the market if you're looking for some safe harbor for your money in the near term. If you don't want to take a chance in the rocky market, or if you got a grandchild that's young, it's not a bad time to buy a treasury bond.
Yep.
The rates are high, and we haven't seen rates like this since 2007.
Yeah, exactly. Right before the last recession. So for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So so capital gains, it's not going to be wicked strong, to be honest with you. But this is the nature of the economy, right? It's cyclical. It goes up, it goes down, and it's us preparing to deal with the highs and lows of it, not just at the state level, but also in our personal finances.
Interesting story out today about the new $50 lottery scratch ticket. $50 for one ticket.
Yeah, remember the day when like $5 was a big deal?
Yes, I do.
I'm old enough. People forget I'm old enough to remember those things. I mean, I remember when $1 million jackpot was a big deal.
Yes.
We were all excited about $1 million jackpot. Now no one buys a ticket unless it crosses 500 million now. I mean, the lottery is the most successful lottery per capita in the country by 2 times more than Rhode Island, which is the second highest per capita lottery. We are able to compete with places like Texas and New York in total gross sales. We have one of the best net sales of the country. We have some of the lowest cost infrastructure to maintain our lottery relative to the size of the lottery. It's under 3% most years with total gross sales. 5 cents of each dollar you spend on lottery goes to the city and town. I'm sorry, to convenience stores, to the restaurant, to the supermarket where you buy a lottery ticket from. It's direct revenue for them. So administrative costs, somewhere in the 8 to 9% range. When you factor in the the convenience stores and
Oh,
the restaurants, they're 5% of the cut. So it is one of the most successful lotteries in the country. And, it's interesting to see when the lottery has in the dip, they announce a dip at the news, but, in 3 months, the dip disappears and now they're running ahead again.
Yep.
Again, the lottery is very secular. And, they're trying to attract more people to play. And yeah, $50. I mean, even I'm kind of like, wow, that's aggressive.
it's aggressive. I mean, obviously, the odds of winning will be much better just because of the higher risk that you're taking. But still, that's an investment.
It is a major investment for anybody. I'm not sure I'm going to see a $50 scratch ticket as part of Secret Santa or upcoming the lottery boards. You've all seen those in charitable events where people put a bunch of lottery tickets on the board and you raffle that away. Generally, you want to put a bunch of $1 ones, not one $50 one on there.
Right. Yeah.
The optics are kind of cool if you have a lot of them on the board. But
now, if there were a lot of $50 ones, that would really be something.
well, a lot of $50 ones, maybe I'll
take a chance on that. Yeah.
I have to buy that raffle, right? But yeah, I mean, the lottery is very successful, and this is an example of it. Working again to try to maximize money for locals, cities and towns, because they're the biggest recipient of the lottery. The majority, basically the majority of net proceeds go to cities and towns from local aid.
Yeah.
And again, it's also density. So Quincy, is one of the beneficiaries of this because we're one of the denser communities with a lottery terminal we can roll out of bed right into. It's like Dunkin' Donuts. You can roll right in bed to a Dunkin' Donuts. Same thing of a lottery terminal.
Pretty much. I can think of 3 right off the bat, right around where I'm sitting. So yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see how popular it is. I mean, $50 is excessive, I think, but I think anybody can agree with that. But we'll see if it's successful. I mean, obviously, a lottery will constantly change games, change tickets, change things around to keep things fresh. And frankly, they can kind of experiment around with things like a $50 ticket. If it isn't successful, the reality is that the $2 to $5 tickets are very, very popular. And given the fact it's a very mature lottery, with a very defined and resilient and dedicated customer base, why not give it a try?
Yeah. I think it's 50 years old this year, I think.
It is. They had a celebration. I think it was the end of November.
Mhm.
State of celebrating the 50 years. So, much work thanks to Secretary Treasurer Goldberg, and obviously our homegrown Mark Brackett, who's now heading up the lottery. The good Quincy guy.
Yep.
And making it successful for city and towns, but. Yeah, $50. I mean, yeah.
Speaking of gambling, when does legal sports betting? How's the commission doing? Do you know?
I don't know any more of these guys. I mean, they've approved Encore, they approved MGM, even though MGM, we've read in paper, has some weird problems regarding employment discrimination, it looks like.
No.
But, both, it looks like the brick and mortar ones are up for the 2 casinos. Plain Ridge should be ready as well. Surely Penn National runs Plain Ridge. They have a sports betting already built into their corporation, including all the regulatory requirements. So the 3 big casinos, have to do this in other states. So compliance in Massachusetts should not be any problems for them. As for online, do they get skins? That's still ongoing issue. We talked about before about security breaches. I'm very concerned about that, particularly on web and mobile devices. Again, folks, please don't leave your money in your online accounts for long. If it gets stolen, you're out of luck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If FTX hasn't proven anything to you, when it disappears, it disappears.
Right, exactly.
So get your money out and put it into an FDIC safe bank account. Please do that. It's, you don't want to, these days, cyber crimes are a new high, and, the war in Russia is just going to encourage more terrorists on soft targets, and soft targets is like gambling accounts. That's a soft target.
Yep.
So, but we'll see it. The projection is maybe April we get online gambling. There's a lot of bidders. I would prefer that the Gaming Commission choose some tried and true ones that have track records of doing this. That will put their license at risk in other states. One interesting thing about gambling, much like alcohol, is that if you have a violation in one state, it could result in suspension, revocation of your licenses in other states.
Mhm.
People don't realize that you could perhaps lose or suspend your license for a violation in another state.
Okay, so they really don't want to risk that.
Agreed. I mean, you want a business that has a risk adverse as much as possible because of the potential devastation of your business on a national level.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, let's keep it that simple. I mean,
yeah,
you want risk, particularly in gambling, in places like gambling and alcohol, those two in particular. You want risk adverse businesses, people that do not want to take a shot at losing their or potentially suspending or losing the license in a neighboring state.
yeah. And what else I want to talk about, Zach, a little bit is I'm sure you're familiar with the attacks on the power stations in, I think it's North Carolina, Washington State. And whether you think Massachusetts needs to look at safety around infrastructure like power.
Yeah, I mean, we're just talking about terrorist soft targets. We had the cybercrime attack on the major pipeline earlier. Was it like last summer, late summer?
Yes. Yep.
We know the impact of weather events in Texas was probably the worst in the ice storm, but even here locally, right? And why did I bring up weather? Well, a lot of our infrastructure, is weather impacted,
Mhm.
and that means that if weather can get it, people can too, right?
Right.
It's I know it's kind of a bit of a stretch of thought, but if you think about it a little bit, you can see where I'm going here. To be honest with you, I mean, since 9/11, the big infrastructure, meaning the transmission lines, the major power connections, are considered part of national security. I know because when I worked in the AG's office, we had all signed non-disclosure agreements. We looked at transmission maps.
Oh,
And like me, I can't remember what's on those maps anymore. It's been a very long time. And that includes gas pipelines. You can look it up online, but it doesn't tell you exactly where they are. You just know where they go point A to point B, but you don't know exactly where every single one are. So, but even then, it's, you can find out, maybe hunt around. And my understanding is a couple of these attacks on power stations was gunfire. It wasn't like someone planted a bomb. I mean, some people with guns shot up a power station, which for the life of me, it's like, okay, not the most efficient way of destroying infrastructure, but still very devastating.
right.
When we think terrorist attacks, we think, dropping an explosive and run, right? So, but it's near impossible to secure every substation at a distribution level, which is the level that we're most commonly understand the poles in front of our homes as well as the underground infrastructure. If you're in that part of the city, there's almost no way to protect all that. But again, you still got to know where it is. You got to find them. There's a lot of distribution infrastructure. But that's kind of the reality we're living in. I mean, I don't remember the last time electrical infrastructure has been attacked in my lifetime. I just can't think of an incident. I mean, there's always been weather, squirrels, mechanical breakdown, all kinds of non-bullet or explosive, man-made explosive or weapon explosive on infrastructure. And really a reflection of kind of like a weird, dangerous time we're living in when people think this is fun or acceptable, whether it be malicious or very frankly, just stupidity, as the case may be. But it's a reflection of kind of a scary time we're in. I mean, we'll see where that heads. But I'm going to tell you, I mean, protecting distribution, meaning stuff in front of your home infrastructure, it's very hard to do.
Right. No, obviously, it's just too big, and too exposed.
Yeah, there's literally too many of them.
Yeah.
You can't possibly protect every capacitor, transformer throughout the system.
Right. Now, the only thing you can do is have enough resources to respond if something does happen, to get it back up as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's a storm response part of it. I mean, should any part of the system, whether it be gas or electric, and even phone lines have an issue, the new monitoring systems they have, and they're going to be updating those monitoring systems again every 5 or so years. We'll be able to pinpoint within, a certain radius. Generally, it's about like a 5 mile or smaller radius, exactly where his gas is much, much faster. Anything goes on in the gas pressurization, all the sensors kick off everywhere. They can actually pinpoint it much faster where the leak is or whatnot. But like you see in storm damage, the ability of electric utility to get out there would be a very similar response if there was an attack on a major part of the infrastructure.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Well, of course, the next big celebration will be Lunar New Year, right?
Yeah, it's very early this year. If I remember correctly, it's going to be January 22nd. Very early this year. Normally see this a little bit closer into the month of February. So don't ask me what year it is. I'm losing track of regular time, much less of Chinese lunar calendar time. Let's see here. Ox, tiger. Let's have the tiger. I'm gonna have to look it up. I think it's dragon. Yeah, no, I can barely keep track of normal time. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see how we come to more normality as we expect to have a Lunar New Year event at North Quincy High School on February 5th, I believe, for Graduation Resources. A lot of local schools, Chinatown has suspended all the Chinese New Year activity since 2020 March. They haven't done anything really at a large scale. We'll see how many more of these events will come back to life this Chinese New Year period. It's been really quiet the last 3 Chinese New Years. Obviously at the Tet, you have the Vietnamese New Year as well. They're having a big celebration at on the South Boston Waterfront Convention Center, the World Trade Center.
Mhm.
They have theirs there. They went BC High for a few years. Actually, the last one I went to was at BC High, the Vietnamese Tet, the New Year there. And then the next big Asian one would be in April-ish, where they do a Cambodian New Year as well as the Buddha's birthday, which is in that time period. But again, it's been very subdued, largely because of COVID.
Right. Yeah. It might change now that restrictions are being lifted in China.
Yeah, that's going to be. We were talking about this before we got on the air. That's going to be horrible. I just don't have another word. It's going to be horrible. Every scientist, has said the same thing. I mean, China mainland proper is going to have the biggest travel since restrictions have been lifted, like just flat out lifted, no real like phased in lifting, just flat out lifted. We can all talk about their vaccination isn't as effective as Western vaccines, but regardless, we all know that you can still get infected with vaccination, you just get lesser symptoms, hopefully, and prevention of death. But over there, I mean, they've been cooped up for 3 years. I mean, we were going stir crazy after 3 months. Seriously. So there's going to be massive amount of travel to Macau and Hong Kong. They're going to try to get all over Asia in terms of just getting out of the country. And in terms of traveling internally, some people haven't seen their family in 3 years too.
Right.
Even domestically, in like one town over, one city over. I mean, that's kind of lockdown we're talking about.
Yeah.
I'd say 3 years of that. We barely got through 3 months without losing our minds here. So you can imagine what they're going through. And unfortunately, they're going to be bringing COVID with them. Just like beginning of COVID, everybody was bringing COVID with them all over the world. I mean, it's just the nature of it. So, some scientists are saying that China has all the variants floating around at once, and the more COVID has a chance to be in people, the higher chance it's going to mutate. The more people infected, the more mutations may happen. And we'll see how a band for people, varying degrees of vaccination effectiveness, will work out. And since there's so little infections at all, because if you have been affected and you survive, putting aside the impact of long COVID, which is a whole thing that's still studied, you do have a higher antibody rate temporarily for some time to fend off the pending variant you just got affected with.
Yep.
They don't have that as well. They don't have the vaccination plus boosters the same way we do, which I'm not saying they're not effective, but they're not equally effective. And they
Right.
don't have, unfortunately, people. I'm sorry, I'm hate to put it, but a lot of people got sick.
Yep.
That's a terrible thing for me to say. That sick and survived. Terrible words come in my mouth when I put it that way. That helps create this herd immunity. So we'll see how it goes. The Chinese government maintains there are no COVID cases because they stopped testing. And we've heard this one before, folks, right? No testing means it doesn't exist. Put your head in your sand. We've heard this rally before in here. So, I mean, it's good to know that people that support no testing means no COVID agrees with the Chinese government methodology. So we'll never truly know the numbers.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're never going to truly know. But I mean, you can watch the news, the internet. A lot more information is getting out of China than ever, largely through social media, VPNs, and local news outlets. And the Chinese censors can't keep up with taking it all down. And, you can see, the hospital videos as well as funeral home backlogs. And right now, the capital of Beijing is taking the brunt of it first. But Shanghai has basically required all children to stay home at school, do virtual learning. The streets are empty in some of the other major cities as those who experience major lockdown have no interest of mass spread infection to go back into another lockdown. So there's clearly a case by case situation on each city's experience regarding what happens if you have infection rates. So.
Mhm.
And they're going to bring some of that, unfortunately, overseas, and hoping that doesn't spur a whole new, Asian hate situation. Again, you guys all know people that look like me have been scapegoated, and it could be another prime opportunity for political points at the expense of other people. So I don't know. There's protocols being discussed in the U.S. now regarding Chinese travelers about recurring testing. I know other countries in Asia, like Japan, has already implemented COVID rules about Chinese visitors. And I suspect, a lot of countries are going to be doing that going into the beginning of the year regarding increased testing requirements for people coming from China.
Wait and see. Any personal New Year's resolutions, Tacky? Do you do that?
Well, I got a physical checkup coming up next Tuesday, so I think that's going to be telling me what resolution is going to be.
Okay.
I'm like you all. I ain't that wicked confident this is going to be a fun day for me.
I'm sure you'll be fine.
So no, I mean, I just happy to have a job. I say that a lot, and I don't know why people think it's that complicated, but I'm happy voters gave me another 2 years, and I'm one of those folks that is happy to have a job and the ability to work and enjoy the work I do, and sometimes it is that simple. Some people tend to take for granted. I most certainly don't never had since I was a child. Very grateful to be able to work and very grateful to have work. And that's kind of my mentality about working, period. And we'll see how the next 2 years go. And, and try to, work with a whole different system, a whole new administration. It's going to be growing pains. It's going to be miscommunication. There's going to be a whole lot of, the run at this. I mean, I remind folks, I've been here for Weld, Cellucci, Swift, Romney, Patrick, Baker, and now Healy. So I'm on Governor 8.
Wow. Okay. So you can teach them a few things.
As I like to say, I know a thing about a thing or two, but I also don't know a thing about a thing or two either. So it depends if it's a do or don't situation, right?
Right.
But we'll see.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, we'll see. I mean, I have a lot of things to say, and I have a lot of ideas. One, I can't promise you it's a good idea, as I tell folks. And secondly, I like to try to avoid things I've seen happen and try not to do that.
Learn from our mistakes, right?
Or other people's mistakes.
Or other people's, yeah, even better, right?
That's what I've learned over the years. Just watch other things and also keep my ears to the ground. I mean, not just on Quincy local politics, but also at Beacon Hill, rumor mill, so to speak, as we're trying to speculate what's going on. And then also I got to see the speaker about my committee assignment next year and find out more about his agenda and also I have my own agendas,
Mhm.
and see what his thoughts are about on those. And look forward to a whole bunch of new reps and senators. And my kid, if I'm the chair, I'm hoping to be a chair and the chair of what I'm doing now. It's all going to be brand new committee members.
Right. So there'll be a learning curve going on for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not their supervisor by any stretch. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong. But I mean, part of chairing a committee is to be responsive to the members, working with the Senate co-chair to try to keep and maybe teach a thing or two to the members about the policy issues as the chair is working on,
Mhm.
as well as manage a staff as we're prepared to learn our lessons from the last few years and try to apply these lessons to this coming session. And the staff and I will have more discussions about what worked and what didn't work and how can we make things better. So yeah, I mean, I'm busy. It's just different busy. People kind of perceive it as like, if you're not in legislative session, you're not working. Well, that's not true. Well, you're not at an event, you're not working. Well, that's not true either. I mean, I have a lot of things on my mind all the time. As people notice, sometimes I get a little bit scattery.
Well, for the meantime, anyway, you have the same contact information, right?
Right now, I do. I'm still in room 42 of the State House. We are fully open. We're running this hybrid staffing still, but there's always somebody at the office or two, depending on how we're working it. We will adjust and change as we go along. 722-617-722. 2370. Yeah, I keep forgetting to change my number. 617-722-2370 is the number, and tacky.chan@mahouse.gov. My email string is very manageable today. I'm very happy it's manageable, but it won't be soon. But obviously, State Representative Tacky Chan is the Facebook account, and tackychan.org and malegislature.gov, which is the state website. Tackychan.org is my website. And of course, Kiwi TV of us as we have our weekly chats. And and please, for love of Pete, don't social media contact me. Oh my God, I get so many scam ones right now.
Yes.
You don't understand what I'm saying. The volume. And now we got LinkedIn scams, emails coming in. I'm like, the sheer volume of scam emails and scam social media I'm getting right now. It's a little overwhelming as I'm kind of just deleting stuff. So please call me or email me directly. Don't use social media. I'm just getting bombarded.
Great advice, not just for you, but for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad out there right now.
It is bad.
And people think, I just sent Tacky a social media thing. I'm like, how? I mean, I got to sort through all this scams.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah. No.
I mean,
yeah. Just use the direct approach. It's the best.
Absolutely. Please use the direct method approach.
Yeah.
Email me directly or call the office directly and, leave a voicemail, but please leave us your phone number. I'm getting response by staff now that nobody wants to leave the phone number when leave us voicemails. Yeah, we don't have caller ID, folks. I mean, yeah, I know. It's when I first started doing this work way back in the day, people leave phone numbers. I can't explain. I just don't know. I'm just telling you guys, this is what I live with, okay? I can't explain this. I'm not going to try to explain it. But please leave us our phone numbers when you leave a number when you call, please.
Yes. Again, good advice. Well, to you, Tacky, and to your family, your colleagues, I want to wish you a very happy and healthy and prosperous new year. I want to thank you for taking time to use QATV over the years to inform your constituents, and we look forward to continuing that in 2023.
Well, same to you and the entire QATV crew, who I continue to grace your graciousness on allowing me to vent on your show. And we all know between you and me and Mark, we always keep good information out there, although I have to dress up for Mark and not for you. You guys can watch Mark's show to understand what I'm saying.
Yes, they're very, very formal, much more put together than here.
But again,
we are down a little bit here.
Yeah, we can share a few laughs too, which is a part of a good conversation, right?
Absolutely, no question. All right, thanks again, Tacky, and we'll check in next year.
Yeah, happy New Year, everyone, and I'll see you as the year turns.